Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar, Hot Topics in Nutrition, Reclaiming Flavor, Managing Taste Changes During Cancer Treatment, led by Lauren Sorel. This program is hosted by the Blum Resource Center. Over at the Blum, we are grateful to the nutrition team for this continued partnership. The recording of this session will be posted on our Blum YouTube playlist and our Blum Digital Resource Center. For those of you watching live, if you have any questions related to today's program, please feel free to utilize the chat feature throughout the session. At the end of the session, your questions in the chat will be used to moderate our question and answer. If you have any other questions or would like more information about resources and programs offered through the Blum, please visit our webpage at www.dana-farber.org/resource center or email us at blum_center@dfci.harvard.edu. Thank you all for joining us. I will now pass the workshop over to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate the introduction. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining. Just a little about me. My name is Lauren. I am one of the dietitians over at the main campus at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And today I will be, of course, talking to you about taste changes during cancer treatment. Just as a to point it out to start with, the reason I wanted to talk about taste changes today is because it really has become a pretty hot topic amongst the nutrition oncology space and the nutrition oncology world. More and more, I'm hearing from patients that they're experiencing taste changes. And so it's really important that we address them and we talk about the nutritional impact that they have, making it, a really strong and hot topic in the nutrition space. So today I'm just going to take you through these four parts. So first off being just an overview of taste changes, the impact on nutrition status. We're going to go through some strategies to navigate taste changes as well as go through the different components of flavor. And then of course we're going to go over some key takeaways. So, to start off, what are taste changes? So, the medical term for taste changes or an alteration of your sense of taste is the term called dysgeusia or dysgeusia. So, it essentially just means that alteration of your taste. For some, it's sometimes defined as a bad taste in your mouth, but I do think it can be very personalized, person to person. So, something you're going to hear me mention a few times throughout this presentation is that taste changes are very much personalized. It is certainly not the same for everybody. It's very much individualized. So the way that we manage it is often tailored to the patient specifically. Some common things that I'll hear are I can't taste anything. All of my meals taste blah. Everything tastes salty. It looks like a cookie, it smells like one, but it tastes like a piece of cardboard. So again, it's very, very different depending on the person, and so the way we manage it is going to be a little bit different. So, why do taste changes occur? There are numerous reasons why taste changes may occur, but specifically in the oncology space, the two, or I guess three of the main reasons where we may see taste changes is chemotherapy or immunotherapy. It is a common side effect of certain chemo and immunotherapies. If any of you are familiar with an immunotherapy called tarlatamab or Imdelltra, that one also is I want to say it's about 32% of patients experience taste changes as a side effect, making it something that we have to navigate a lot. The other thing that can cause taste changes in the oncology space is radiation, specifically to the head and neck areas. So, if someone has cancer in their salivary glands or on their tongue, in that space, that is the area where we often see radiation be targeted, affecting the taste buds, affecting your ability to taste. So those are some of like the key reasons where we see it. Unfortunately, the exact mechanisms are not well understood. However, the possible causes that we know of are that we see damage to the cells that are on our tongues because of the high cellular turnover rate. Cancer cells we're aiming to target have a very high turnover rate as well. So that's been shown that, one of the possible causes is having to do with damage to those specific cells that live in our tongue. So, another reason that a taste change may occur is that it could be a byproduct of another side effect of chemo or radiation or immunotherapy, such as dry mouth or something called xerostomia. If you think about it, you require some good quality saliva to optimize your taste perception. So if your mouth is very dry, your saliva production is likely not optimal, making it more difficult to perceive taste and to taste your food and your beverages. And then loss of smell. So a lot of us know that our smell and our taste are very connected. They're intertwined. So if your loss of smell has been impacted by therapy or for another reason, you may notice some taste changes or a different perception of your taste. One other reason that can is more so not oncology related, but still a possible or a cause of taste changes in some individuals is a zinc deficiency. So you could be an individual who is in survivorship. Maybe you underwent your treatment, your chemo or your immunotherapy 5, 10 years ago, and you're experiencing taste changes. We may want to check a zinc level on you because a zinc deficiency, one of those side effects is a different change in your taste or a different taste perception. So we'll be able to test that and replete, and that will hopefully help alleviate that symptom in some cases. So again, there are numerous different reasons where taste changes may occur. So the extent of the taste change could be different person to person. You may experience a lack of taste, maybe it's overly sweet or bitter. It's going to vary person to person, also dependent on, the type of treatment that they get or the reason that the taste change is occurring. So, circling back to why is this, a very important topic or why this is a hot topic in the nutrition space is because taste changes do impact our nutrition status. So if you think about it, your treatment, so can it be head and neck radiation? Is it immunotherapy? Is it chemotherapy? Could potentially cause this alteration in taste and then ultimately lead to food avoidance, which then will impact our nutrition status, which I'm going to talk a bit about in the next slide. So, the nutrition impact. So, there are many ways that taste changes can alter our sense, or excuse me, our taste changes can alter our nutrition status. So, first off, it can really lower your appeal to eat or the appeal for food, including taking that joy out of eating. I'm going to circle back to this topic before I move on to another slide, but keep this idea in mind because it is really important when we think about nutrition status. But taste changes also can contribute to a poor appetite. If if you know that food isn't going to taste very good, it's going to be really hard to feel that you want to eat. That appetite is not going to be optimal. That can also lead to consumption of smaller portions. I've worked with many individuals who will tell me I can only take 1 to 2 bites of my meal, and then it becomes intolerable. It becomes very challenging to continue with my meal. So it limits the amount of food that they're eating at a given meal. And the taste changes can also limit your food choices. So maybe there's only, 3 to 4 foods that appeal to you, that taste good or taste like something. And that starts to limit your variety of which you can eat or the food variety, which can have an impact on your nutrition in terms of micronutrients, right? Our food provides us lots of vitamins and minerals. For example, let's say you're someone with taste changes and you have low appeal for protein foods. You may be missing out on good iron sources. Maybe that's a part of your nutrition that gets impacted, but it's still very important that we address it. The main takeaway, at least for nutrition impact, that I do heavily focus on with patients undergoing cancer treatment is that the reduction in food intake because of these taste changes can often lead to unintended weight loss, which increases the risk of malnutrition and can contribute to poor tolerance of treatment. And ideally, we want our patients to continue undergoing their treatment. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing the nutrition concerns as it relates to the taste changes in order to best optimize our nutrition status. And lastly, before moving forward, I mentioned earlier about that appeal to eat, the joy in eating. I want to talk a bit about impact on quality of life because nutrition status is not just, it's not just one or two parts. There's multiple components to it, including quality of life. If you're someone who is a foodie, right? A lot of people use that term, foodie. If you're a foodie yourself, you are often motivated by food or you're motivated by the taste of food. That is what invites you into a meal, invites you to want to eat or take bites. If the appeal and that joy turns into a chore, it can really have a negative impact on your quality of life, which in turn can further impact your nutrition status if that is strongly impacting your ability to maintain your nutrition. You may have no other side effects. You may not have any nausea. You may feel great other than the fact that you can't taste well. So we want to really make sure that we address it and help you navigate through that piece that may be impacting your quality of life. So, getting into the, tips and tricks, the most important part is how do we manage this? So, this slide talks a bit about both nutrition related strategies, but also non-nutrition related or, less nutrition related. So, for starters, something that's not necessarily nutrition related is oral hygiene. I always encourage my patients to talk with your care team about the best oral hygiene practices. One thing that stands out to me that I often encourage with when I'm counseling is rinse your mouth out before meals and before you take bites of food. It can be really helpful to have a clean palate before introducing sips of a fluid or bites of a food, just to give your taste the optimal chance to have a clean slate before that food enters. And it also doesn't hurt to rinse it after you're done consuming food as well, just so that if you do have a bad taste that enters, you're able to clean that slate and move on to another meal or to your next snack of the day. Something else that's very important is maintaining moisture. It sort of goes hand in hand with oral hygiene, but moisture, as I mentioned, dry mouth, it's hard to produce that good quality saliva. So we want to make sure we're optimizing the moisture in the mouth. So that can come through, rinsing your mouth out before meals, as I mentioned. For some, they use an oral refreshment spray, like a Biotin rinse or a spray to maintain moisture, and also focusing on hydration. So now moving a bit into some general nutrition related tips, hydration. Some literature, recommends 1.5 to 2 liters of fluid a day to maintain hydration. Although this is something that I do recommend you get tailored to your needs based on your height and weight. Your registered dietitian can help work with you to make sure that you're getting adequate fluid to help make sure you are producing adequate and good quality saliva to maintain your hydration. The other concept is choosing a food that you can taste. So if you are overall lacking taste, but let's say for instance, cranberry juice is a fluid that pokes through. Use that to your advantage. Start with taking a sip of cranberry juice and alternate it with a food item or bites of a food item that you can't really taste and allow that cranberry juice to linger in your mouth to help you increase the taste perception of that food that you're consuming and make it a more pleasant experience. And then again, talk with your registered dietitian. That is, another general tip that we, of course, will encourage is working with one of us. We can certainly help you talk through, specific yes or no foods, help you create food lists or, talk through a food journal or encourage a food log so that you can monitor, what foods are working, what's not working so much, what combination of foods and beverages are working for you, and just keeping track of it while also monitoring and optimizing your nutrition status. So additional strategies, but talking more a bit about the food component of this. So cooking and food preparation is going to be very helpful in this situation, but again, it's going to vary person to person. I often like to use various herbs and spices. So this can come from fresh herbs, it can come from dried herbs and seasonings, but the idea is we want to just trial and error. So that's something I also will encourage day to day. Not every day will look the same. Maybe one day cinnamon is inviting and cinnamon pokes through as a flavor, but maybe 3 days from that point, you're more interested in the flavor profile of mint. It's going to vary. So don't be afraid to trial and error different herbs and spices. There's also some literature out there suggesting that cardamom, which is it's an herb, it's more floral, a little bit warm, and oftentimes if you periodically chew on it, sounds strange, right? But if you chew on it, it can also help combat some of these taste changes. So we want to use the herbs and spices to our advantage, including, as I mentioned, the cinnamon, the mint, but also garlic and basil or rosemary. There's many different spices that we can explore to help enhance the flavor of food. Alternatively, you can explore different sauces, condiments, salad dressings that do have, a wide variety of ingredients and spices in the mix to help you enhance the flavor of food and make it a more pleasant experience. The other thing to think about with cooking is the preparation method. So when we cook foods or when we prepare them, it can sometimes alter the taste, right? So the onions, right? Onions, for instance. Raw onions are going to taste pretty different than sauteing them or caramelizing them. The flavor changes a bit. So play with that. Maybe you're someone that, the raw onions, that flavor pokes through and it's pleasant, but maybe you're someone that needs to go for, the cooked version of it. So play with different preparation methods, and that can also include roasting, broiling, steaming, air frying, etc. So really play with the preparation method as often as you can. So, additionally, when I'm thinking about cooking or pairing foods, I noted this as pairing opposites together, but I do want to clarify that when I say opposites, what I'm thinking about is pairing one taste that is unpleasant or that is a bit too strong and trying to pair it with a flavor profile that will help offset it. So for instance, if something is too sweet, there could be a few different opposites of too sweet depending on who you ask, right? So that could be pairing it with spicy, it could mean pairing it with bitter, or maybe even pairing it with a tart or sour flavor. One of these options might work to help lessen the sweetness of the food that you're tasting. I do also want to make note when I mention spicy or I mention some of the other tart or citrus foods that are, or excuse me, flavors that are on this slide. If you are someone that has mouth sores, you want to be very mindful of spicy, citrus, etc., because those may worsen those mouth sores that you're experiencing. So I would avoid those types of pairings and stick with the ones that feel the most comfortable and that are soothing to you to not worsen that symptom. But in general, if you tolerate spicy, give it a try, as well as the bitter. So something like the dark leafy greens, dark chocolate, and again, tart or sour. Plain Greek yogurt is a good example of that. It's really good for offsetting a flavor that may come off as too sweet. Moving forward, bland or lacking taste, same thing. Try that tart or sour flavor, but maybe you play around with lemon or lime juice, or you explore something that's sweet or a combination of a sweet with a vinegar base. For example, ketchup or barbecue sauce has that combination of sweet but also vinegar based that a lot of people have success when something is very bland. Having that bit of sweetness and a bit of that vinegar can be very useful. As far as salty or too sour, those are some other strategies to offset, right? So sweet or citrus. And then sour, we want to think about something that's maybe a bit warmer, like cinnamon, or others may say that, nutmeg is a bit warm, or even ginger can be a very warm herb or spice. I do just want to mention as well, miracle fruit, if you've heard of that before, or miracle berries is another term. I've had a lot of folks ask me about miracle berries or miracle fruit. Does it work? Where do I buy them? It's not something I regularly recommend because it's only somewhat understood and somewhat studied. But the idea of the miracle fruit or the miracle berry is to change the perception of a food that is sour and convert it to or perceive it as more sweet to make it a more pleasant experience when consuming. But it's mostly applicable with foods that are more acidic or low pH. So again, someone with mouth sores, I wouldn't recommend increasing your amount of acidic foods because it's going to be painful. But this miracle berry or the miracle fruit is not well studied in trying to change the perception of bitter or salty or just a bad taste. So just something to keep in mind if you see that advertised. And then lastly, metallic. There's of course no true opposite, but some strategies you may have heard in the past, maybe using bamboo utensils, eliminating the regular utensils out of the picture. Explore the tart flavors, and maybe also avoid things that come in a can because of that, same thing, that metallic taste we're trying to eliminate, or stainless steel. Drinking out of a glass cup instead of a stainless steel water bottle could also help alleviate some of those metallic taste changes. The last piece I want to touch on are the other components of flavor. So, if your taste is really impaired, if you can't taste anything, taste is really bad, let's say you've tried some different herbs and cooking preparations, etc. You've really tried all that you can from a taste alone. We want to explore our other senses. Flavor is not one thing. Flavor is not just taste. It includes smell, texture, and temperature. So we want to use our other senses to really boost our ability to eat and drink more to improve our nutrition status. So if your smell is intact, maybe you start spending more time smelling fresh herbs, or if the idea of cooking fresh baked goods in the home, maybe you don't consume them because they don't taste good. But if you just smell that in the environment, that cooked, like fresh baked cookies, who doesn't like the smell of that? That could be very inviting to bring you into the kitchen and boost your appetite. For textures, you could explore pairing different textures together to create that pleasant experience. So maybe it's crunchy and soft. So tortilla chips with some guacamole, or it's something that's a bit more porous with something that's a bit more smooth, like broccoli and cauliflower paired with some hummus or a yogurt dip. Playing with different textures can also, again, create that same sensation to boost your nutritional intake. And then temperature being that other component of flavor. Try pairing hot with cold. Hot bowl of oatmeal with a cup of cold fruit. Pair those items together and focus in on the temperature rather than honing in on the lack of taste or the poor taste that you're experiencing. Okay. And then a little bit more just on the smell, texture, and temperature. We try to incorporate these things together and circle them into, kind of involve them together, right? So, like I said, if your smell is intact, use it to your advantage. Hot meals, so temperature, right? We're bringing in the temperature component, give off that stronger aroma, incorporating smell. Just like I said about the freshly baked cookies, brings an inviting smell into the kitchen. That can boost your appetite and boost and create cravings. So heating food also can modify the texture. So again, temperature in relation to texture softens the fibers in certain vegetables when you cook them, making it a different texture, or even melting fats. Cooking butter comes off a little bit differently than just having cold butter on a piece of toast. Um, Cold and soothe, that could be the same thing. So we're talking temperature, we're talking texture. That could be more appealing than something hot. Or going back to smell, smelling the herbs, something like clove or lemon, at least a few times a day for 10 to 15 seconds. Try just holding it under your nose and see if that lingering smell helps to enhance the flavor. So, really hone into your other senses to help boost your nutritional intake. And again, making that eating experience more enjoyable, getting your appeal back for food, and boosting quality of life. So important takeaways. So I think we've touched on each and every one of these bullet points here, but just to sort of, tie it in a nice neat bow, the idea and the goal of managing the taste changes is to boost your nutrition status, maintain it, reducing our risk of malnutrition, and also increasing quality of life. We don't want to forget that key component of nutrition status is quality of life and appeal and enjoyment of food. Always trial and error. Try not to give up as challenging as it can be. We're here to help. So keep trying different foods. I've worked with a lot of folks who say, "Oh, I don't like avocados. I really dislike them." Well, if your taste perception is off, maybe now's the time to try that avocado again, or cottage cheese. I find that cottage cheese, and a lot of us will say people either love it or they really dislike it. But maybe if you're having some taste changes, try that cottage cheese again. Maybe that texture sheds a new light and brings that enjoyment back. Explore new recipes. I know that this presentation didn't tap into specific recipes, but feel free to, we're lucky we live in an age where we can explore what's online, explore recipes. There's so much out there. And working with your registered dietitian, we're also happy to share recipes that we've gathered over time to help you play with some of these flavors and these spices and cooking preparation methods. Always tap into your other factors of flavor, so don't forget about the texture, the temperature, and the smell of food and beverages, and keep sticking with what works. Like I said, if one thing works, really try to use that to your advantage and pair it with something else that's just maybe not as enjoyable to eat, and keep at it, keep working at it. And then lastly, always, come to us if you need our help. We're always here to help you at our registered dietitians on staff. We love helping people through these taste changes, and we really want to boost your nutrition to really optimize it and optimize tolerance of treatment. And then lastly, as I mentioned, exploring things online, the American Institute for Cancer Research does have some good resources. So don't be afraid to tap into that, and explore what they may have to offer in terms of navigating taste changes as well.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for that wonderful presentation. I know that I learned a lot of information. To our folks that are on right now, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. But really, thank you so much, Lauren. This was recorded and will be posted on our Blum YouTube playlist.
Of course, thanks for having me.